Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the DJ Roscoe Sports Show. We're back once again this week. Got a lot to talk about. We start week 2 of the NFL season. It's flying right by. Starts tonight on Thursday Night Football, the first Thursday Night Football game on Amazon Prime. Sometimes we have trouble with buffering in our house where it doesn't work right away, but it's going to be a good matchup. They played each other last year on Monday Night Football, and it was in Philly, and the Philadelphia Eagles tore them up and beat up Kirk Cousins and the Vikings in a blowout. Let's see if history repeats itself. It's going to be Vikings at Eagles tonight for the home opener in Philly. Of course, the elephant in the room, my beloved Jets. They won on amazing Xavier Gipson walk-off 65-yard punt return touchdown on Monday Night Football. Epic comeback win over Nana Fran's Buffalo Bills. But all the hype of Hard Knocks and all the excitement of Aaron Rodgers, and on just the fourth play on the first offensive drive, 4 plays in, goes down on a sack, and you think, oh, maybe it's just an ankle issue, and they're like, the x-rays are negative, not too bad, maybe it's a high ankle sprain, maybe he'll be back in a week or two. He has a ruptured left Achilles. He'll be out for the rest of the season. So, as I like to joke, in a painful way, as a long-suffering Jets fan, this is why we can't have nice things. We finally thought this is our chance to maybe compete for a Super Bowl, and Aaron Rodgers is out in a blink of an eye, just like that. So he did say, he finally made his first comments, that he will be back. I didn't think he'd want to retire this way. I know he's about to be 40 years old on December 2nd, but he signed for another year, and I think he made more than a one-year commitment, unless he won a Super Bowl, wanted to go out on top. I don't think he wanted to go out where on the ground, being carted off, and being that your last one in the NFL. I know he's a Hall of Famer no matter what, great quarterback, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers wanted to go out that way. So Aaron Rodgers said in his Instagram post, it's almost like a Dark Knight quote that they did in the Batman movie. The night is always darkest before the dawn, and he said, "I will rise again," almost like Dark Knight Rises, the third movie to conclude Christopher Nolan's great Batman trilogy. And so he basically said that, as a lot of people thought, he's heartbroken, just like all Jet fans are, but he's heartbroken all the time he invested, and he appreciates the thoughts and prayers. And now he will root for his team and hopefully mentor Zach Wilson, and hopefully he'll mature and wise up. He wasn't great, wasn't horrible, was mediocre. The offensive line, he was running for his life at times. The offensive line is just mediocre for the Jets right now. Zach Wilson made some nice plays. Garrett Wilson made an amazing one-handed catch where he tipped it to himself, where the defender was all on a jump ball that tied the game up. And then after Josh Allen, for whatever reason, kept throwing interceptions, 3 interceptions to one of the Jets defenders in the secondary, kept getting the balls. They had a go-ahead field goal. They then tied it on a field goal. They doinked off the goalpost. They tied it up 16-16, and then after basically 3 and out in overtime, where they couldn't get any traction offensively, the Bills, they punted the ball to Xavier Gipson, which we also on Hard Knocks, was a undrafted free agent. Him and his teammate, wide receiver friend, made the team. A lot of people didn't think it was going to happen, and it was such an emotional moment. And then he took it all the way to the house, 65-yard punt return touchdown. So that was joyous, and Robert Saleh looked horrified when he found out the Aaron Rodgers news, and he even basically said before the MRI confirmed on Tuesday, he's like, we basically feared it's a ruptured Achilles. And a lot of people, the people who run the Players Association, said that all this turf garbage fields, they're risking players' health needs to stop. We need grass fields. A lot of people have hurt themselves and blown out their knees and other body parts on that Jets field at MetLife Stadium where the Jets and Giants play. I would wish that they would take safety of the players paramount over everything else. I know it's multi-purpose fields turf. It's much easier probably to maintain, but we really need grass fields in the NFL with all this high-priced star talent, and you get your hopes up as a Jets fan. But, basically the way I look at it, the Super Bowl hopes are gone. I was hoping maybe to make a trip to Vegas in February right before Valentine's Day for the Super Bowl. That's over with, I would think. But the Jets still do have a great defense. They played great the other night against the Bills, even though Josh Allen made lots of costly turnovers that I would give Jets a lot of credit. They're great defense, but also just a lot of immature mistakes offensively where he was throwing the ball. And they have a solid running game. Breece Hall came back, ran the heck out of the ball on very few carries, and Dalvin Cook, a two-head rushing attack. They did a great job. And they have some nice offensive weapons around him. Garrett Wilson's a stud receiver. They have Alan Lazard they got from the Packers, Randall Cobb. They have some young talent as well. As I said, Xavier Gipson showed some really great things on the special teams player of the week. And maybe he'll get some time at wide receiver. But a lot of it's going to have to do Can Zach Wilson minimize mistakes, not make costly turnovers? He made the one really bad interception to Milano the other night against Buffalo, but if he can minimize mistakes, you never know. They could maybe, they already want to know. They have emotional victory. They can rally around the troops. If Aaron Rodgers, while rehabbing, can help tutor him. I know, like I said, the Super Bowl is out the window, and maybe if Aaron Rodgers comes back next year at 40 years old, I know it's a big ask. A lot of grueling rehab with his Achilles injury, but Dan Marino has overcome that before. When he was an older quarterback, so did Vinny Testaverde. When the Jets had high hopes after going to the AFC Championship game and losing to John Elway and Terrell Davis and the Denver Broncos the next year in 1999, after John Elway retired, it looked like maybe the Jets were big-time Super Bowl favorites. And just like that, in Week 1, he was out. And then they went with Rick Mirer, Tom Tupa, the punter, got to play quarterback. And then Ray Lucas eventually stabilized things. They finished 8-8. But so that in many ways, right. So maybe they'll be back. But in the meantime, if with the power running game, solid defense, and if Zach Wilson can minimize mistakes, it's a big if, and make a few decent plays. This is a team that was 7-4 through 11 games and was 5-1 early on in the year with Zach Wilson last year, even though they beat up some backup quarterbacks before he imploded and eventually lost his starting job and Mike White took over. They could compete for 8 or 9 wins and maybe try to sneak into the playoffs. That's probably the best case scenario as a long-suffering Jets fan. Maybe they can break the long 12-year playoff drought, the longest in football, but that's now a big ask. But it's possible. But they do have a very tough schedule, and the only thing that they were set up with all these great pieces, offensively and defensively, is to have the star quarterback. So if Zach Wilson can play up to his potential, what he was when they drafted number 2 overall, that's great. But if he continues to make mistakes and has struggles, and like I said, he did okay on Monday night in a role that he was thrown in there, but he's now the quarterback the rest of the season. Unless he gets hurt, or if they bring someone in and does much better, like they have, I think, Tim Boyle, who could be on the practice squad, who might be called to be backup. They have to bring another quarterback in, just so they have another quarterback in the room, but he's going to be the quarterback one way or another, and they have to rally around him. So at this point, if they could find a way to maybe win 9 wins and challenge for a playoff spot, that'd be great, and break their long playoff drought of a dozen years. But the Super Bowl hopes and all of those hopes with Aaron Rodgers are at least delayed for another year, and I'm hoping that's not his only great memory. Was him on 9/11 running out with the American flag. How patriotic, how powerful an image that was, with the lights flickering, and it was such a powerful, exciting moment. All these celebrities were in the building. I think I saw Method Man and Kevin James, Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid was there. All these big-time people. Justin Timberlake, Kevin from The Office dropping the chili. He was giving high fives and hugging Aaron Rodgers. Everyone was so pumped. And in the blink of an eye, 4 plays in, he's out. So, still more than that, and hopefully Aaron Rodgers can make a speedy recovery. The only interesting thing is, if Zach Wilson, let's say, this is maybe a good problem the Jets have, if he plays out of his mind, plays great this season, how does Aaron Rodgers get the job back? I know that's very unlikely to happen, but if Zach Wilson does somehow play amazing, how do you then demote Zach Wilson back to backup? But maybe this will give him the on-the-job training he needs so he could be ready. But the other also thing is, Aaron Rodgers, if he comes back 100%, you would think they still would have a chance to compete even at 40 years old. It's a big rehab, but we'll see. Like I said, it'd be a good problem to have, I guess, if Zach Wilson plays out of his mind and makes it a tough decision. But I would think Rodgers would probably get the job back. All right, let's go into it. Week 2 of the NFL schedule. Let's stop with the sadness. Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime at 8:15. Vikings at the Eagles. Vikings came off a bad home loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield played pretty well. No Tom Brady for Tampa Bay anymore, and Tampa Bay still won by 3 points. Kirk Cousins threw for a good amount of yards, but it was a disappointing opening loss for them. We all know that Kirk Cousins has struggled in primetime games, even though I did root for him after watching that Netflix show, Quarterback, with him, Pat Mahomes on his race to his second Super Bowl title and MVP, and Marcus Mariota. That was a great show. I definitely recommend it on Netflix. I think Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, and all these talented guys on the Vikings offense, they'll do a decent job. But the Eagles defense is solid. The offense needs to clean things up, but it was also against Bill Belichick on a sloppy, wet field, Tom Brady's retirement ceremony, and I know I'm making a lot of excuses, but the Eagles got up early, 60-0 in a blink of an eye, and then they basically stopped scoring and kicked field goals and barely held on, and they overturned a catch late in the game when the Patriots were driving to score a go-ahead touchdown, and they were able to hold on for a 5-point win on the road against the Patriots. But Patriots might be better than we thought they were. Mac Jones threw for over 300 yards, and the Patriots played pretty well in the rain. and Bill Belichick's defense always are hard to beat. So Eagles found a way to escape that victory. I would think Jalen Hurts and the Eagles will be big-time motivated to prove that they knocked out the kinks and the struggles from week 1. And home opener in Philly, it's going to be rocking tonight. Prime time, Thursday night football. We'd hope they wouldn't lay an egg, or they might throw more snowballs at Santa, the Philly fans. But I think the Eagles are going to play well. I don't know if it'll be straight up a blowout like it was last year on Monday Night Football, but I think the Eagles win by 10. I'll go with 30-20. They don't score a ton of points all the time, but I think a lot of times they sometimes will hover in the 27-point range. I'll go with Philly win by 10 points, 30-20 over the Vikings. Vikings might start being panic mode, going 0-2 to start the season. Philly improves to 2-0. Then for the eight early 1 o'clock games this Sunday, September 17th, we have the Packers at the Falcons on Fox. Jordan Love played very well. I was very impressed by that. I wasn't sure what kind of performance we'd get. Finally, turn the keys over to him now that Aaron Rodgers has left Green Bay. Played pretty well, lit up the Chicago Bears defense. The Bears, I know the Bears might not be great, but there was a lot of hopes with DJ Moore and Justin Fields running and throwing the football, but the Bears got lit up by the Packers just like they did when Aaron Rodgers used to own the Bears year after the year. So Jordan Love impressed. So the Packers now go on the road against the Atlanta Falcons, who played pretty well and beat the Carolina Panthers, and their young quarterback Ritter played pretty well, Desmond Ritter. But I'm going to go with the Packers here, going on the road to Atlanta. I think the Packers it's going to be a tougher game than you would think. I think the Falcons will play them tough at home, but I think the Packers will go on the road in the Dome. And I'm going to go with the Packers 27-17. They win by 10 points over the Falcons. 1 o'clock on CBS, the Raiders at the Buffalo Bills. The Raiders were able to win by 1 point against their division rivals and spoil Sean Payton's return to head coaching for the Denver Broncos. And on the road in Denver, the Raiders now go on the road to the Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park. It's it's not frigid yet, like late in the season. That would be tough for them. But it's also a West Coast team playing an early 1 o'clock game that always tough for them to do. The Bills, they had such a disappointing game against the Jets, especially after Aaron Rodgers went out. You blow a 10-point, 13-3 lead at half. But I would think Josh Allen will clean up. I don't have tons of confidence with him with turnovers, but he's still a great talent. I think he'll clean up some of the turnovers. He still has Stephon Diggs and Knox at tight end and all these offensive weapons and a solid defense. I think Buffalo at home bounces back against a mediocre Raiders team. Be interested to see what they do against a better competition. Will Josh Allen be able to turn down the turnovers, which he's had such a problem with last few seasons? I think the Bills bounce back and beat the Raiders. I'm going to go with 27-13. They win by 2 touchdowns at home in Buffalo. 1 o'clock on CBS. This could be one of the big matchups of the day. Big time AFC North Division rivalry. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Houston Texans last week, but it was a little bit ugly, their offensive performance, with all the top-notch offensive weapons Lamar Jackson has. Now they got the contract extension, Odell Beckham Jr., and all those guys, and they were expected a lot out of them, and they struggled at times, but they beat the Houston Texans. J.K. Dobbins also blew out Torres Achilles, just kind of like Aaron Rodgers did the other day, so that's a big loss at running back. The Baltimore Ravens now go on the road to play the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to go with the Bengals here. The Bengals played awful last week against Deshaun Watson, who played better, and the Cleveland Browns. So don't have a ton of confidence in the Browns, but Deshaun Watson can get back to what he used to be with the Houston Texans, playing quarterback at such a high level, throwing and running the ball. He'd be such a great offensive weapon. We'll see if he can do that after the long layoff, the suspension, and the holdout, and all that stuff. For about 2 years, he barely played. But they dominate the Bengals. Joe Burrow, who just signed the richest contract in football, I would not think the competitor Joe Burrow will allow him to lay another clunker. I think the Bengals, with all that talent, they're going to rebound. The Ravens are a tough team. Defensively, they're solid. Offensively, I think they're going to work out the kinks. But I think the Bengals will be a hard knock battle. But at home in Cincinnati, they're going to bounce back from a tough, disappointing loss to Cleveland. I can't see them dropping to 0-2 and losing both games in their division. Joe Burrow and company are going to lead the Bengals to a victory. It'll be a close one. I'll go with 27-24. They win by 3 points over Baltimore at home in Cincinnati. 1 o'clock on Fox, the Seahawks at the Lions. Both teams had impressive opening week victories. The Seahawks, I picked the Seahawks to win opening week. The LA Rams pulled off the upset, and with Matthew Stafford and company come back from injuries and knocked off the Seahawks with the 12th man in Seattle. So the Seahawks came off a disappointing loss. And again, It's a West Coast team against an East Coast team, 1 o'clock, so it's 10 in the morning in Pacific time. West Coast teams struggle that way unless they're top-notch, like a 49ers team in their prime or someone like that. The Seahawks, I think, are actually to fall to 0-2. As much as Geno Smith played great last year, Seahawks really disappointed, especially in the second half when it was a close game. In the first half, they got blown out by the Rams. I'm going to go with the Lions, who impressed, won by 1 point. I know it was without Chris Jones, who's holding out, who's back for the Chiefs, and no Travis Kelce, but they came back, beat Pat Mahomes, the world champion Chiefs, in their building when they were raising their championship banner. That's hard to do on the opening game of the season. Lions are vastly improved. Jared Goff's playing well. Dan Campbell, they will run through a brick wall and are so motivated him. I'm going to go with the Lions over the Seahawks. And I think the Lions are going to put up some points. I'm going to go with 34-13. They crushed them by 21 points, 3-touchdown win. They win bigly. Detroit. Big things are happening for the Lions finally.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
And then I'm going to have 1 o'clock on Fox, the Colts at Texans, the battle of the defeated, but early in the season. They'll have to play each other twice during the season because they're AFC South rivals. Colts at times look pretty good with their young quarterback Anthony Richardson from Florida. Played the Jaguars tough, but the Jaguars pulled ahead late and won against the Texans, who played the Ravens tough, but still lost. I'm going to go with the Colts here on the road to beat the Houston Texans. I know it's always hard to go on the road, especially for a rookie quarterback. Both are rookie quarterbacks with their young star quarterback for the Texans. So they're unproven, but I think Anthony Richardson and the Colts get it done. They put up some points, and they're going to win a game. It might look ugly, but I'm going to go with 20-13. They win by a touchdown on the road against the Texans. 1 o'clock on CBS could be the game of the day. My buddy Dan DeToro, I bet, will be at this game at his Jacksonville Jaguars at home in Jacksonville, his home away from home in Florida. The Chiefs 0-1, but they should get Travis Kelce back. Hopefully his knee's in decent condition. And by the way, watch the Kelce documentary with about his brother Jason Kelce of the Eagles. Could have been his last year, and they end up facing each other in the Super Bowl, and then he decided to come back. And then his wife was about to give birth to their third child right before the Super Bowl. It just premiered this week on Tuesday, September 12th on Amazon Prime. Highly recommend it. And now there's even rumors that Travis Kelce is with Taylor Swift. He's a Swiftie, possibly hanging out. Who knows? But the Chiefs, I think, will bounce back here. I think it's going to be a tough game. Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. The Jaguars are improved. They came off a nice win over the Colts in Week 1. But the Chiefs, you get Chris Jones back. Hopefully he's not too rusty. They agreed to incentives for a new one-year deal. Pat Mahomes gets Travis Kelce back, his big security blanket down the field. Cannot keep passable to Tony. Tony, all the drop passes, he had butterfingers for hands. Could not hold on to passes that would have led them to a field goal late in that game to try to win it. So many drops, at least 4 or 5 big drops that cost them. It was an ugly game, and the Lions played them tough and won that game by 1. But I think the Chiefs bounce back on the road in Jacksonville. It won't be easy, but I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Jaguars. High-scoring game. I'm going to go with 34-31. They win by 3 points late with a last-second field goal over the Jaguars to even up the record at 1-1. Jaguars will move to 1-1 as well. Then 1 o'clock on Fox. The Bears at the Bucks. I'm going with the Bucks here. I may be drinking the Kool-Aid too early. I'm going to say Baker Mayfield gets it done. He played pretty well under Sean McVay when the Rams got him from the Carolina Panthers midseason last year. I think he's going to continue to play pretty well. And Tampa Bay surprised teams, even without Tom Brady. And Mike Evans is unhappy with his contract. But the Bears, as much as I like Justin Fields and DJ Moore and all those guys, I think the Bears are going to struggle. I think Tampa Bay at home are going to win, improve to 2-0. Baker Mayfield's got that moxie, that swagger back. I think Tampa Bay is going to win. Low-scoring game. I'm going to go with 20-17, just like last week when they beat the Vikings by 3. I think they win by the same margin, 20-17 by 3 points at 1 o'clock on Fox. The last of the early games, 1 o'clock on CBS, the Chargers at the Tennessee Titans. Chargers lost in a high-scoring shootout against Tua and the Miami Dolphins. Lost by 2 points. I think it was 36-34. But Justin Herbert, you know the offense is going to come to play and put up big points. Titans lost by 1 single point, playing the New Orleans Saints tough in Derek Carr's first start with the Titans, with the New Orleans Saints. And the Titans, Mike Vrabel's defense is always good. Derrick Henry, when he's going, the offensive line can give him some holes. He's a great running back, such a power rusher. He struggled a little bit in Week 1. Ryan Tannehill struggled in Week 1. Even though it's a West Coast against the East Coast team, I think the Chargers offense is going to continue to be top-notch, and the Titans are going to have no answer for them. Titans offense is going to be really play pretty poorly. They can't put up points unless Derrick Henry just runs wild the whole game. I'm going to go Justin Herbert, the Chargers, put up the points on the road in Tennessee. Early game for them. I still think the Chargers win. I'm going to go with 30-13. They win by 17 points. Big road victory to even up their record at 1-1. The Chargers, Titans fall to 0-2. There's 4 o'clock games. 4:05 on Fox. The Giants at the Cardinals. I think the Giants bounce back after getting embarrassed, shellacked on Sunday Night Football. 40-0. It was embarrassed the whole game. Couldn't even make the field goals to at least get on the scoreboard. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Cowboys looked amazing with Micah Parsons and that defense flying around, and even Dak Prescott didn't have to be amazing out there, but the Giants turned over the ball too much, couldn't do anything offensively, had no answer to stop the Cowboys' dynamic defense. But I think the Giants will bounce back on the road against Arizona, and the Cardinals are struggling. They have a former backup quarterback of the Steelers playing Joshua Dobbs because Kyler Murray's still out from his knee injury from last year. The Cardinals lost a close one to Washington last week. But I think the Giants are going to go on the road and beat Arizona. And Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Waller, Darren Waller, tight end. The offense is going to pick it up. The defense will play better against a backup quarterback, basically, for Arizona. I'm going to go with the Giants. I think they'll win by a good amount. I'm going to actually go with the Giants winning 27-10. They win by 17 points over the Arizona Cardinals. Nice road victory for Brian Dable and company. Bounce back. Cardinals fall to 0-2. Giants 1-1. 4:05 on Fox. The 49ers at the LA Rams, division rivalry game. On the road here with Sean McVay's LA Rams. Rams impressed in the second half. Came back to beat the Seahawks. They're 1-1. 49ers were unstoppable. The little combination of the 49ers are a great team, and the Steelers played awful at home in Pittsburgh in the opening game against them. Brock Purdy looked healthy. When he's healthy, he's a top-notch quarterback, even though everyone looks at him as one